Okay. We will go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is February 1st, 2024, and I've got an echo and I'm rather loud.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to tidy that up or
Ready to go.
I'm ready to go. We'll give it just a moment. This is the regularly scheduled City of Glenwood Springs City Council meeting. We're doing some adjustments on sound so that it's not so echoey. Okay. Okay, great. We'll do that. We will go ahead with a roll call from our city clerk.
Counselor Russo,
Present.
or Mayor Russo.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Ingrid.
Mayor
Yep, present. Okay.
We're here.
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem Dame.
Here.
Counselor Zelinski. Counselor Godis.
Yep.
Counselor Schachter. Counselor Kaup. Counselor Weimer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Perfect. Do we have any agenda changes or conflicts? We'll take that as a no and move on to council announcements. This is for items not on the, that you're not going to be commenting on in council comments. I'll take that as a no as well. We are going to move on to citizens appearing before council. As a reminder, this is for items not on tonight's agenda. Oh, yeah, come on up. As you know, 3 minutes at the podium. Please introduce yourself and let us know if you're in city limits.
Okay, it's gonna take me a second, so I wasn't planning on doing this, so I had to call in and something didn't work on my computer.
Okay, so come on up to the podium and you can start by introducing yourself and we'll give you just a second to get your stuff together.
Okay, Jennifer Vanian, 1016 Minter Avenue. The Waste No More ballot, measure 306, was a grassroots effort to support mandatory recycling and composting in Denver. It passed, it was wildly popular. 70% of the people voted for it. It means that all the large buildings in Denver now have to be, I don't want to say forced, but they have to find ways to have people recycle within those buildings and compost. All the restaurants have to compost. So all that has to be accessible to people. And now that Glenwood really doesn't have any small development happening, I hope that it's time that city council would address this. I've been coming here for so long trying to get one council person interested as I am, and so far I haven't, but I continue to try, and I hope that it would be something that you guys could maybe put on the, just have Hannah look at 306, get it on our ballot, see if people want to have that, so all those large buildings would have resources to recycle. Because our landfill is something that we shouldn't take for granted. And we should recognize this whole valley is relying on it. And at some point, we'll be really happy that we did this work and start. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. We appreciate you coming. Anyone else this evening? Public comment items not on our regularly scheduled agenda for this evening. I'm going to take that as a no, and I'm going to close that section of our agenda. Moving back to council, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Okay, hold on one second. Counselor Zelinski.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Can you, oh, I had Marco's light lit up if you don't mind. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to, this is for actions and or presentations. Moving on to item number 11. This is resolution 2024-09, correcting a Scrivener's error, and resolution 2024-05. This is from our last meeting. City Manager Steve Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you know, we were presented with a petition not too long ago to put a ballot measure on the ballot. We started doing our part, which is verifying signatures, which were great, setting the language, preparing the resolution, and there's a little bit of miscommunication on our team, and we didn't get it right. There were a few things that were typos, and a couple of paragraphs got switched a little bit. Not anything major, but it shouldn't happen. I looked into it to see exactly what happened, and I can assure you there was no malfeasance or anything. We just didn't get it right. And I'm sorry about that. It's my responsibility to put accurate information in the packet, and that's on me. The process that we used didn't work. So I'm sorry also to Mr. Banks and his team. It was not intentional, but we didn't do a very good job. Things that, making mistakes that embarrass us and waste your time and strain credibility and public trust are not values that we have. So thank you. This is going to clean everything up and make sure that we've got a good resolution. So,
Okay,
thank you.
I will bring it back to council for motion. Before I do that, I'll just, on behalf of all of council, just apologize for the errors and the oversights. I will echo everything that Steve Boyd said. It was certainly not intentional, and thank you for your patience while we cleaned it up. So I'll look for a motion to approve. Counselor Zelinski.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-9, correcting a Scrivener's error, and resolution 2024-5.
Counselor Schachter.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you for coming this evening. We've taken care of that, and we appreciate the correction. Oh, you know what? This evening we won't be taking public comment because it's a correction. So we recognize the issue. We made the correction. Thanks. Nope, nope. Nope, but you're welcome to call Steve Boyd tomorrow, and we'll go from there. Okay. Moving on to, let's see. No, actually, no, I'm sorry, John Banks. This is a public meeting. You're more than welcome to schedule with our city attorney and our city manager tomorrow, but it is not available. They're not available this evening. Moving on to number 12, ordinance 2024-03, amending the 2024 budget appropriation. City manager Steve Boyd.
Okay, thank you. So each year we pass a budget. We submit that budget pretty early in the year, August and September. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with some of our projects. So things that we don't get into the 2024 budget that we are going to do at council direction, we put into this first amendment. We'll do about 4 of these during the year. So that's what this is. And I think we just need a motion and 4 of you to say yes.
Bringing it back to council for a motion to approve. Jonathan, Counselor Godus.
I move to approve.
In a second, Counselor Deb.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I just want to clarify for Mr. Banks, who's kind of hanging out at the door, that I'm not going to walk out and
Okay.
talk to him right now because I'm engaged in the meeting with you and I'm
Sure.
required to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you to
No,
say
no, no.
that.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. We appreciate it. So, we did just approve item number 12. That's ordinance 2024-03. Thank you. Moving on to resolution 2024-07, and that is sole source purchase for a new fire truck.
Thank you. I can take that one too.
Okay.
So we have 3 fire engines that are kind of aged out. They're getting old and we're trying to replace them, and we're having real problems with availability. In a couple of years, they're going to stop servicing some of the parts on these engines, brakes and that kind of stuff. So we need to get this done. They're expensive. Our charter says that anything over $25,000 needs to be taken out to bid. Once in a while, Pierce, our manufacturer of choice, will put an engine out stock, and it's kind of first come, first serve. We would not have time to go out and bid that. So what you see here is a resolution that gives staff the authority to make a purchase on behalf of council in the event that they come up with a stock engine that we can use.
Questions back to council? Councillor Dim.
Thank you. Just real quick, does this preclude us from going anywhere else?
No,
So if directions change or certain engine types will become available, we can always say, hey, thanks, Pierce, but we're gonna pass and we want to go with a different engine.
absolutely.
That's not a problem.
Not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kell.
I had a question. So we have 3 engines that are aging out. How old are they?
22 years.
Okay, so that's not the big ladder truck.
No,
I guess I'm wondering.
no, that one I think is a newer one. I mean, Gary can
That
tell
one
you
we-
exactly if you need.
That one was just what, like maybe 6 years ago or something?
Sorry, good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hello.
Olson, Fire Chief.
Chief Tillotson?
That ladder truck was purchased in 2018,
Okay, right.
so it's got another 15 years to go, unlike some of the ones we're trying to get replaced.
Okay. And are there options out there? I know technology is growing. How does the energy efficiency work on these trucks? Are there options for more
There,
electric or hybrid, you know?
there are some options. As of yet, there are only a very few prototype electric or electrically assisted fire engines.
Right.
Given the very nature of this conversation and the fact that we only have 3 fire engines and we rely on them pretty heavily, I think it would not be prudent to get into some prototype electrical drive systems at this point. I think there's going to be some inherent debugging that's going to go on with those engines those prototypes that are in service now.
Yeah.
And I think that would be, plus the fact that those engines are as much as double the price of our historic diesel driven ones.
Of the regular ones. Okay, I guess, yeah. And my only question would be, as we, move forward and if we've got 3 engines we're considering over the next few years, it would be interesting to have an analysis on that and maybe see some of the data, see what's out there, have the manufacturers come in and let us know, what's available. If it's only in prototype stage, how much when is it ready for on the ground or for a small municipality like us to take that on?
I think that over the next couple of years, that data will start to be more readily available
Okay,
as those units that are in production and or use start to develop a history.
right. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Schatzer.
Me? Did you say?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
2 questions. Does passing this resolution require any change in charter code or anything else in terms of?
No,
bidding?
it brings you into compliance with the charter and the code.
Okay.
It's an unusual circumstance when we do this. It's just 5 years is a long time to wait to get in queue.
No, and just as long as you're up here, a question about, is there maybe for wealthier towns or other bigger towns, is there a secondary market like fire truck trader that occasionally comes up? I'm not saying do it in this case. I'm just wondering if there is one out there.
There is a used fire engine market out there. Even that, I think that even stretches some of the charter and some of the regulations with purchase of things even further, right? In that somebody has a trade-in fire engine available, well, at least we would have some negotiating time, I guess. But and I've never in my history with the fire service have I come to the governing board and said, I want to buy a used fire. Not familiar with the process.
Thank you.
Councillor Dim.
Oh, thank you. So we received the quarterly report this morning or whenever it was, and which was, by the way, fantastic
Mhm.
format, very easy to read. I actually read everything. And I think it mentioned that we have one on order.
We do. We, we bought 3 engines with a bond issue back in 2000, 2001. Those are the 3 engines that are now 22, 23 years old. We started trying to work at this replacement process. So we got one through the bid process in 2021. Unfortunately, the delivery time is 2 years on that, or it's in excess of 2 years, and it's coming in June. So this process that we're asking for tonight is to replace the second one of those 3.
Got it. So that's the future 2 that we need to replace.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So I would, are we doing questions or comments?
Right now we're on or question.
Okay, then I'll hold. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Cotis. Okay, so before we transition, anybody have any additional questions for staff and city manager? Any comments on this item?
Nope, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Great, then I'll bring it back to council for a motion. Counselor Cotis.
I move that we approve resolution 2024-07, the sole source purchase of a new fire truck.
And I would second that.
Let's go ahead and call that question. Thank
No,
you.
Oh,
Comments. Sorry,
it's okay.
didn't realize you wanted to make comments.
I do.
Counselor Cotis, go ahead.
I think that electric fire engines aren't necessarily prototype anymore. I think paying twice as much is scary, but I think it also locks in 20 or 30 years of carbon and greenhouse gas pollution. So I'd like for us to continue to explore that with all of our fleets, even our EMS vehicles. I think that we should never be in the secondary market. We're not the Welton Volunteer Fire Department. We are the city of Glenwood Springs. We are a professional force who needs professional new equipment. And I don't want to be scabbing fire engines from brush.
Counselor Cotis or Counselor Dim.
Thank you, Matt.
Sorry.
Just,
Oops.
yeah.
You turned yourself
Doing a
off.
Schacter here.
Yeah.
Full Schacter. Just real quick, I echo Councilor Kaub's and Councilor Godus's comments. I think we need to put every effort forward to look for electric vehicles. I did a little research. I know Pierce makes one. It's called the Volterra. Battery retrofit at this point, but it will be their flagship electric. Boulder just got their second one delivered out of Austria, a fantastic product. The video is amazing. And you can actually go to Boulder, it's not that far, and touch it. So I think with whatever we do, we need to move forward with looking into EV vehicles for everything. So thank you.
So I'm going to add my 2 cents, and that is that while I absolutely appreciate the concept of electric vehicles, I strongly believe in listening to our department heads. So once Chief Tillison and Public Works, who manages our fleet department, make a recommendation to us to procure and explore an electric fire truck, I'm happy to entertain it. Until then, I will probably be supporting the direction they want to go. So do we want to call the question? Okay, thank you.
It's unanimous. It passes.
Thanks all. I know.
The fire truck says thank you.
There's a hand up. Yeah, I see that. Let's, no, we didn't. I don't know. But can you take us over to attendees and look at who's got their hand up? Oh, you know what? Unfortunately, yeah. Okay, yeah, darn it. So, Gary Vick, we always so appreciate your perspective and the things you share. We didn't, at the point that we had public comment, your hand was not up. So unfortunately, this evening, we will be moving on. The next item is the Item number 14, pay as you throw opt out. Matt Linghorst.
Good evening, council. To type up staff report for this, I don't have any fancy presentation associated with it. Just kind of wanted to go through this process with you. We have had requests to be able to opt out of the pay as you throw program. Most of those requests at this point have kind of worked themselves out. We had 35 of them on the list. Approximately 21 of them would like to opt out if they could, but if at the end of the day you say no, that's actually okay with them. So leaves us about 14 people on the list out of 3,300 or whatever it is that we have in the program. 2 of them have stated financial reasons. 12 of those remaining kind of, I just don't like the program. I don't like you telling me what to do, which is fine too. Or they have something else that they do with their trash. They bring it to a business they own or something else. So they have legitimate reasons or legitimate ways that they handle their trash. What I'm trying to figure out is I can't make this decision if they can opt out. It's kind of a council decision. It was a council program. So I'm trying to get some direction from you. 2 ways. One, financially, can people opt out or can we come up with a financial way to help them afford the program? It's $10.80 on the lowest program. So it's not a huge financial burden, but even some people, $10.80 is a conversation piece. So there's a financial question there is if we want to set something up or what. And then the other version is if we just want to let people opt out because they can opt out because they want to, they do something with their trash. For comparisons, I put in staff report, Carbondale has this exact same program. There are no opt-outs available for that program. You're on the program, you can pay the $10.80 or whatever their minimum fee is over there. If you don't want the cans, you don't have to have the cans, but you still have to pay into the program. And I was maybe overly blunt in my little staff report, but the program pays for things. It's not just a city program. We're trying to charge you, to do trash. We're trying to keep trucks off the road. We're trying to keep carbon emissions down. We're trying to do everything we can, but this program, the 20% we charge on top of it is the administration fee that helps pay for some of the other programs that are either blossoming or have become a little cumbersome for the landfill to try to cover, which is hazardous waste day. Streets basically pays for leaf removal at the piles, the tree removal. Green waste day is paid for through landfill at this moment and streets. So we have all of these programs, including hazardous waste day, that this is paying into. So part of the consideration is if we do decide to do an opt-out and there's some form that somebody can fill out, we can create that if that's the way you want to go. Are they allowed to use these other programs that this program is paying into? So a lot of questions, I guess I have. I was just trying to figure out where you guys are mindset wise with this. Like I said, it's not a huge number of people. We've been keeping track. I have a list. I know who they are. I have phone numbers. I have addresses. So we can reach out to them depending on what your consensus is with this. But you could also see there's other places that have this program. They have an opt-out, but the opt-out is basically the minimum fee associated with the program.
I'm going to bring it back to council for questions. Counselor Zelinski.
So do you have any kind of an idea of like how we would put together a program that, does support people that are trying to opt out for financial reasons? Because I do think that that's valid. I know it doesn't seem like a lot of money, but if there's a legitimate need, I wouldn't want to not support that.
Yeah, that's something we've been given some thought to. And I think we need to find the right metric to say what is really where that level is. And then I think if you chose to do that, we would just self-fund it. I don't think that there's going to be enough demand for that to outsource it to another organization.
Counselor Godus.
How many, Matt, households, or I don't know if households is the right word, are getting service through our pay as you throw total in the city?
I knew you were going to ask me that and I don't have a solid number. It's over 3,000.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Coe.
So Matt, you are head of our public works. I have a question for you. If someone, I'm just thinking of our utilities. So if someone in the city has a solar PV system on their house and it generates all of their electricity for the year, can they opt out of Glenwood Springs Electric? Do they still, okay, so they still pay a monthly fee?
Yes.
Administration for being within the city and having city electric kind of as backup.
That is 100% correct. We still have to assume that their load is going to be taken off of the grid. because it may not be sunny that day. They may not have battery backups. There's so many situations that they're still hooked to the grid.
They're still
So they
hooked.
pay the flat fee for the meter basically for us to service it, make sure it's there to read it, those kinds of fun
And
things.
that covers things like admin and having
Correct.
a system that serves the whole city.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Weimer.
Matt, what would the, if we had them opt out, like so Lafayette's at 1650. If we had, wait, so sorry, for Collins, if you're opting out, it's 1110 a month,
Yes.
right? Which is below sort of the low tier of actual service. Do you know what our number would be monthly, just to sort of, to be able to, you know, their contribution for the recycling center and the landfill and the other things? Do you know what that number would be?
I mean, in essence, the number would be the 20% administration fee we charge on top of the existing fee that Waste Management Mountain Waste, I'm sorry, hate to say that,
Yeah.
Mountain Waste charges us. So in the $2 to $3 range.
Okay.
I have a couple questions. One is, if someone is on electric and they're not able to pay their bill, are there not like community support services to be able to pay for that, right? Like I'm sure the electric department receives some funds or people are reimbursed somehow. Is that your understanding?
So I don't know all of the assistant funds. We do pay into a state assistant fund through the electric department.
Okay.
And there are human services funds through the county and the state of Colorado to help pay for things. Yes.
Okay, so basic services. And of these people, the 14 that are just absolutely like, I don't need this. What, not to go into all 14, but what are they saying they're doing with their trash and their recycle? Well, no, I'm wondering what Matt is hearing from these people.
So that is actually part of the answer. So several people I bring my 1 or 2 bags to the recycle center. I pay the $4, which is now $5 actually. They use the recycle center services. They'll collect their plastic bags and bring them to Walmart or Kroger's, City Market. Several of these people are very, very good at distributing their trash. They take their compost and they bring it to us, or they hire Evergreen Zero Waste to bring it away from. They're extremely good at handling their waste, better than we are currently, for sure.
Okay.
So fairly impressed with that. Thus, they don't need the service. They're doing things. Now they are using the recycle center.
Mhm.
So if they bring 2 bags, you just paid for the entire month, minus 80 cents.
Okay.
You're using the recycle center, we pay for that. It costs the city quite a bit. It's about $155,000 a year to run the recycle center. We get a little reimbursement from the state for hauling.
Mhm.
We have to apply for that, manage that. That's a grant basically, and we have to get that money back in. So recycle center costs a bit to run, and the landfill is basically paying for that at this moment.
Okay.
But other people are bringing it to go a little farther in, because there's 14 of them, that's 2. They own a business and they bring the trash to the business and they recycle 100%. I mean, I believe these people when they're telling me these things, but it's a program to benefit the city. Maybe there is a reduced number down below the $10.80 or something that could be an opt-out number, but we still have to continue these programs. It would be super hard for us to say, you can't come to hazardous waste day.
Yeah.
And we check for license. It says Glenwood Springs on it. We move you along the way. I'm not checking your date of birth and what your name is, those kinds of things. We just want to make sure that people are abiding by the rules as much as possible. Once again, recycle center, I can't keep them out of there. It has to be a free service at the recycle center because of the RREO grant that we built it with
Okay.
for 5 years or something to that effect. So it's not like I want to keep them from these things. I'm just saying you pay into the system to help the system function and make it so we can keep all these waste materials out of the stream as much as possible.
Okay. And was it Lori who was our pay-as-you-throw consultant?
Yes.
Okay. Have you gotten any feedback from Lori regarding opt-out? Any other community that has pay-as-you-throw structure? Are there any other solutions for opting out, recommendations? I mean, if we don't have to reinvent the wheel, what are other communities doing?
So these are the places that she recommended I go talk to.
Yeah.
She's not aware of any place that has a pay-as-you-throw or
Okay.
recycling type program that we do.
Mhm.
There are other places to just franchise and say, Mountain Waste, you're going to come do all of the houses in this city. Everybody's going to get a 96 gallon and an 18 recycle bin kind of thing. And they do have opt-outs, but they make the form very specific, and it has to be like financial reasons associated with the opt-out. So there are local communities that have the same franchising type conversation. But the opt-outs are basically kind of around financial discussions.
Perfect. Thank you. Those were all my questions. Counselor Godus.
Sorry, just one more question, Matt. And you said this, I don't know if I heard it. How many people indicated that they would like to opt out because of financial reasons?
2 that I'm aware of.
2. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to council for a motion and then some discussion. Counselor Schechter.
Let me get to the right page here. I would, regarding our item 14, do I have to reference it any more than that? I would move at this point that we do not consider or implement an opt-out program at this point.
Counselor Godus.
Second.
Any discussion? Counselor Zelinski.
No, I just am still on. I'm right there with you. I feel
Okay.
like that goes against what we're trying to do here. I don't think we've given it enough time to fully even vet the program. We're only like 3 months in. So, I think at this time, it's good to keep the conversation going. I think that, if we can address those people with financial concerns, I think that's really important and I would totally support that. But anything else, I don't think we should do it this time.
Perfect. Counselor Schechter.
Well, I'll reiterate a little what Aaron just said. I think it's way too early to offer an opt-out. My own personal feeling, I used to take everything to the recycle center, but this is working well. I think a lot of the bugs have been worked out over the last couple months. An opt-out also is going to create a big burden, I think, on our staff as to hammering out who does what. The percentage is so low. And maybe in a year or at some point in the future, we look at a way to subsidize with some low metric those that are truly in hardship. So I would continue as is, and thank you.
Counselor Cow.
Is that me?
Oh, it is.
I'll support this. I also think that it's too early. I'd also like to say this is a benefit to the whole city. It's all of us as a community. We have 14, sounds like maybe, 14 to 15 people total out of 3,000 plus that are wanting to opt out. And I congratulate them on doing a really good job with their trash. But this is a community-wide benefit. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I've noticed significantly less trash truck traffic on the road. I think that's just one of the many benefits, not to mention the landfill and everything else we've discussed with this program. So the only way I would even consider supporting it in a future date, I would still want them to pay the minimum fee, the minimum program that we have set up. So to me, I think at this point, doing that would probably just create more backlash and anger. So I think right now we stay where we're at. I agree with Councilor Zelinski. Let's try to figure out a way to help out people who truly can't afford it and how to vet those. But otherwise we hold the course. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Dunn.
Thank you. Same here. I agree with what I heard. Stay the course, keep going forward. In the future, and this may not be the place to say it, but in the future, I would rather talk about the increased price for bear cans than an opt-out program.
Me too.
So, thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Counselor Godus.
Yeah, it sounds like we have some pretty good support here. I think talking about 23 people out of 3,000 is, I wouldn't say it's silly, but it's not a great use of time. I think just two people probably doesn't I mean, if 2 people are financially hard up, I'd say just pass the hat on council and we'll just help them out. I mean, that doesn't seem worth building a whole program around. And, I think one of the things I want to talk about a little bit is people that I hear a lot of that, people take it to their business and put it in their dumpsters. Well, that's not a free ride. That's a theft of service. Every term of agreement, service agreement that a business has with a commercial dumpster says you're not going to put household waste in it because you get charged per pound, right, at the dump when that truck comes. So it's not reducing our waste to the landfill. The company that is hauling the commercial dumpster is having to pay more for that person to get a free ride. So all these people that are taking it to their commercial dumpsters, congratulations, like they've gotten kind of a good value in the past, but it's come at the cost of not helping our landfill at all. I don't think it's consistent with the goals of what we're trying to do. So I
Just
just
to be
don't see.
clear, I think some of these people own their own businesses, but you're right, that's usually written into it. Some of these people is a fringe benefit associated with the business. The business is like, that's perfectly fine. So just so you know, I think it has been thought about on their end, but I don't know if they've read the terms of their contract either.
So before I call the question, I just want to say that we had one member of the community this evening come and talk to us on items not on the agenda. And it was simply that she was reminding us of what a asset our landfill is. And so to Jennifer Vanion's point, we are stewards of that landfill. And this decision was made in order to bolster and support the longevity of that landfill. And I think to echo, it's too soon. But I also don't want to discount that we have created a financial impact to some community members' households in their finances. And so for that, I at some point in the future, I'm happy to have that conversation again, but for the time being, I will be supporting this motion. And let's go ahead and call the question.
Will you be accepting public comment at this time?
So no, because this is not an ordinance. So this is simply just an update and a discussion. So.
Sorry, I already voted. What's the motion again?
Can we repeat the motion? Just want to make sure I'm
Can-
on the right side.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Can you clear?
Motion is to continue the program as is and not include an opt-out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Good.
you. And I'm missing one. Oh, there it was. Okay,
It passes. It's unanimous.
thank you.
But you guys are going so fast. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
We will reach out to all 35 of them, get more information from them, get an update, let them know what you've
Thank you.
decided. And then maybe it gets revisited in the future, but right now we're just staying the course.
And please extend just our appreciation that, the comment that it is a little premature. But that at any point in the future, we open the discussion again, we will connect with them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item 15, Southbridge update.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Ryan Gordon, the city engineer for Glenwood. I'm here for this Southbridge update. So I'm going to kind of go back and just kind of refresh your memory of the last update 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be with you guys. But I do think it's very pertinent. And then I want to give you an update of all the activities we've done in the last 2 weeks. So I want to thank Flatiron Construction, who was one of our consultants to peer review value engineering study, and just kind of quickly run through these slides. Again, I think you guys have seen these, but just so you are memory refreshed, right? So they came back, looked at the current cost of the bridge and the project overall. Their numbers, $91 million. If we kind of add in right-of-way costs and any other future studies and design, we're probably looking at the $100 million number for this project. So that's kind of the baseline. Schedule-wise, they put together a schedule. So to construct the bridge and the runway tunnel and all the elements is somewhere around the 36-month or 3 years of construction. You add in some of the other bits to it, it's probably 3.5 to 4 years of a project. We had some value engineering work done. SGM engineers of Glenwood Springs kind of looked at 2 different bridge types. We settled on one that probably makes the most sense. On the screen, a steel girder bridge. We're looking at somewhere between a $12 million savings if we go that route, and somewhere around 15 months of savings of construction time. And again, I just wanted to bring up those high level points to kind of give you an idea where we are, because it really sets the stage for what we have done since. So a couple of big things that we've done, lots of meetings, lots more analysis. So we took the value engineering that SGM and Flatiron did. City staff has put together quite a bit of other items. And I think Ashley and Lee presented it last time. So in total, with the items that were identified by SGM and Flatiron and some of the other ones that we've identified internally, depending on how we go, there's somewhere between a 20 to 25 to $30 million savings if we include all the value engineering items. Now, in order to get those into the system, we really need to work with FHWA and CDOT and then work within the framework of the current EA, the environmental assessment document. So in that regards, we have started to meet with various users. So we talked and met with some of the airport users last week. We took their information on some of the options that we're looking at of some design changes and got their input. We took all that and we went down to Grand Junction, met with the CDOT folks and FHAW folks and presented, hey, here's some of our ideas on value engineering and some of the ideas to kind of change the design. We don't have any specific information quite yet to share with you, but what we are doing is we have developed this long list of items. We're putting together a matrix. We're looking at what the impacts are with these changes. Are they positive? Are they negative? What's the cost savings? And we're going to present this whole document to FHWA and CDOT and see what we can't do within the current framework of the EA. And again, I don't have any specifics other than we are working through this long list. In fact, we just had a meeting prior to today's council meeting with CDOT and FHWA to kind of have that conversation as well. Those conversations weren't just simply on design changes. They were on how to administer the grant, some timelines, construction contracts. Again, don't have any real bit specifics because they're really general, but I wanted to give you a sense that things are really moving. So a couple of things, we've had, some meaningful conversations with some of other stakeholders as well. Looking at, again, reducing impacts. So again, talking to the airport users about, hey, what would you like to see? What are the problems you see with the current design? The new design, the new alignments, does it make sense? Does it not? To get their sense. We've talked to Holy Cross, which is again on the east side of the river, to talk about how we can get into their lot. And again, we've had some conversations with the Jacksons on their ranch. And so what we've done specifically with those two is we look to try to reduce the amount of impacts to their property. The 90% had a substantial amount of fill at the intersection on those two properties, approximately 12 feet of fill. We're trying to look to regrade it and bring it down more at grade. And we have done that. And again, we're presenting some of the ideas to FHWA and CDOT to see where we can go with those ideas. So one of the other big things that we have done as of last week and working with our consultant, looking at areas where we generally know the project design is set. Generally speaking, that is the CDOT corridor or certain aspects of the CDOT corridor that we need to do some major significant upgrades and design improvements to State Highway 82. In those areas, we are moving forward with purchasing right-of-way. And so we are working to allocate monies into this calendar year for that specific reason, for future design considerations, but then also to work to develop the right-of-way and easement purchase agreements and exhibits and to get that right-of-way going. And so we have that going so we can start to secure and work through that kind of lengthy process to secure funding, or excuse me, to secure the right-of-way. So generally speaking, that's kind of the update. I know it doesn't have a lot of meat in it yet, but we are anticipating probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks having a really solid answer from FHWA and CDOT and on what, in their opinion, can and cannot be changed within the design to still fit within the EA. And one other thing, our goal is to not to take many steps back, is to work within the current framework of the EA to deliver whatever project we can with the ultimate goals of reducing the project cost, the construction timeframe, reduce the maintenance, the long-term maintenance that we see going on with this project, and ultimately deliver a project that we can live with and then serves the overall goals of the project, which is obviously emergency evacuation routes. So I know that we're coming back every 2 weeks at council to give you an update. This was kind of the update this time. I'm happy to take questions and answers, and hopefully the next couple times we'll have some really substantial updates and some serious direction as we move forward. So I'll leave that there and turn it back over to you guys.
Counselor Cotis.
You said you met with CDOT and FHWA today?
That is correct, yes.
What was, what was the nature of that conversation? If you're able to say in a public setting?
Sure, yeah. No, I mean, so we actually met with both those entities twice, last week and again this week. Again, it is just to start to have in further along those communications on what our ideas are on some of the design changes. So the grant is going to be administered through CDOT. So they're going to be the ones that it's kind of our counterparts. So we had a discussion with, what does that look like? What is going to be the reporting requirements? You know, what is the meeting schedule? So it's kind of I won't say a kickoff meeting, but it was like, what's the right communication protocols? But again, we also had some really good discussions with FHWA and talking about the EA, talking about what those federal regulations are. I mean, none of us here at the city have ever dealt with a grant of this size and this magnitude and all the requirements. So it's really talking to them to understand what all goes into that. So again, it's laying that groundwork, hopefully for successful project delivery as we move forward.
And we've been working with Jacobs for like a decade on this. I mean, for a long time anyway. I mean, Jacobs has got to have a lot of experience with some of these federal grants. What is their opinion on some of these EA versus amendment versus redo questions?
Right, we're working through those with them. I mean, they definitely have some, are supporting us through this process. So they generally feel the same way we do, where there is some wiggle room. To be quite frank, the definitions of what can be changed and what cannot are pretty loose. And so there's going to be a lot of interpretation going into it. But, we are working with Jacobs to help us present ideas and to work through the process with FHWA.
And we still have, I believe, $1 million left on the contract with Jacobs to get to 100% design. Is that correct?
So Jacobs has another contract amendment that they presented
Okay.
to us in March of last year. And so that was just a shade under $1 million. It was a little over 5,000 hours left to do of the project, they thought. Some of that could change depending on where we go with any of these optimizations and changes to the design. So there is effort left for Jacobs to do to wrap up their design.
So we're at the point where we're waiting on executing that last amendment with Jacobs to get to 100% design until we have better clarity from FHWA and CDOT on if we can make amendments versus a redo, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So to give the nature of what's going on, if we do make any changes to the bridge type, for example, is one of the big ones as mentioned here, that has not been priced into Jacobs's next amendment. And so we are holding back on letting Jacobs go full bore until we understand the nature of the changes that we need to make, and then sit down and negotiate scope and fee with Jacobs.
So if I understand correctly, the timeline is in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have a determination from a FHWA. So in theory, again, stuff comes up, but in theory, we should be able to, by the first meeting of March, certainly be able to approve the amended, if Jacobs has that scope of work, but we'll know what we're getting into by the first meeting of March.
We're really hopeful. Both us and FHW and CDOT really want to get to a conclusion of this next step. We're both working, really hard. Everybody kind of says, well, government works slowly, but and this is quite opposite, quite frankly. We're all running as fast as we humanly can to get to these answers. So yeah, my desire, I think all the desire in the next couple of weeks is to understand what direction we can go. Do we need to look at trying to find additional monies to afford the current design, or can we make some changes and bring the cost down? So again, we should have those answers. I'm hesitant to say the next meeting will have a contract for you guys to look at, because the way I see it is, once we understand the next couple of weeks what we can and cannot do, we're going to want to go back to Jacobs and say, hey, look, we're going to redesign the bridge, or we're going to redesign this, or we're going to change this. What's the cost from you to do it? So, I'd like everything to happen on, Monday next week's this answer, Tuesday, Wednesday, but it's probably a little more time wise. But again, I'm hoping the next time I come and speak to you guys, we will have a much clearer direction of where to go.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Counselor Cap.
Thanks, Ryan, for the update. I appreciate it. And it's great to hear that these conversations are going on and moving forward. Is there was some talk at some point about maybe kind of going design build on the bridge. Is that all yet to be kind of decided?
Say that again. I'm
If you go like a design
Oh.
build on the bridge or something.
sure. Yeah, we've had some initial discussions with CDOT as well on alternative delivery methods.
Right.
So whether that's design build, there's some terminology that is, I don't think we need to go into, but there's design build or CMGC or CMAR, a couple of the acronyms. We all
Okay.
love acronyms, but there is certainly discussions on how to do that. And so a real quick primer. So what that would do is instead of completing the design to 100%, taking it out to bid and then awarding to a contractor, those processes allow the designer, the engineer, and the city to work and then hire a contractor and work together on a parallel train on a not quite completed design, but then work to a final design. And really that is there to somewhat recognize some cost savings, but really what it does, it starts to eliminate risk and unknowns, because as you're working with a partner, those questions that may arise can be resolved prior to the project being completely designed. So
Great.
theoretically, you're working through a lot of the design issues prior to them becoming an issue during construction.
Great. So if CDOT is going to kind of be the administrator on it or through it, then they'll be actively involved in the project. Is there a role or a time where council will have like a full presentation from the consultant, whether it's Jacobs or and CDOT and maybe an FHWA rep, so that we can just see the big picture and how it's all coming together? Or I'm just wondering when that kind of happens.
Yeah, I mean, we can facilitate, kind of whatever you guys want to see, whether that's that whole team or whether it's staff presenting, but we can definitely present that again as we move forward.
Okay.
Whether that's at a finality is like, hey, here are the exact elements, or like I said, as these 2-week updates happen, hopefully we can present those ideas to you. But at the end of the day, if we want to have that full team, then it probably worthwhile. I don't think FHWA would be probably part of that.
Right.
But CDOT would be that partner, and give an idea of where CDOT is. It's, so they are partners in a lot of different projects we're working on. So currently the 6th Street project, CDOT's a partner, the Devereaux Bridge project, where they are, the recipient of the money and help to manage it, right? So
maybe it's just the city, but coming in, I'm just excited to be able to see the big picture and see how all this will come together, because there are a lot of different elements to this Southbridge project. So.
There are, right? And I think either in the work session updates in that format or the evening sessions, we will present to you guys the full package. And when we break out all the dollars and see all the different, twists and turns, you guys will be able to see, the whole gamut.
Great. Thank you.
Counselor Sector.
Not for tonight, but I would hope as a relative newcomer and maybe speaking on behalf of other council members, I would love to see Ryan at some point when you think it is timely, when we know more information, a greater financial breakdown of we know the 50 millions come from the feds due to the credit here of Glenwood, and maybe CDOT. We know about A&I, we know about an earmark, but I'd like to see a breakout, and that may lead to a discussion of reasonable parity and contribution of who's really benefiting from this bridge, because it's not just Glenwood. So I'd love to see that down the road when you think it's a timely presentation as we know more. Thank you.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
In March, we're planning to do that. We're planning to take a good look for you guys at the A&I fund, how much we can bond, what it's going to cost us, what projects we won't be able to do, that kind of stuff. So either first or second meeting in March, I think, is when that's on the schedule.
Great.
Yeah, you're still on. Oh, he's not?
So
You turned
related to
yourself
that,
off. I didn't-
I do have an intent to look at who else is benefiting and how much they have or have not put in, up valley, down valley, in the county as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from council? Thank you, Ryan, and thank you for your whole department, the energy you guys have put into it. We appreciate it, and thank you for the update.
Yep. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks with
Yep.
hopefully another update with that for more information.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you,
Thank
Brad.
you.
It's exciting.
Yeah. Back to council for council comments. Let's light them up. Just out of, I usually wait and go last, but I am going to jump in first and say that there have been quite a few, I've gone to quite a few different meetings this week and done my boards and commissions. And I simply want to say, you know, a big thank you to so many of our community members who step up and sit on our boards and commissions and their willingness to take the time out of their schedules. I find it to be a very good platform for those who want to be heard and who feel like they can dedicate time and energy and creative problem-solving solutions to the community. And it's a nice segue to say that there are some openings coming up. So there, we do have a volunteer page for all of our boards and commissions. So I encourage everyone to look onto it and find one that resonates with them. Sometimes they're even open to those that are not in city limits. Most boards have one that's in 81601 or some connection to the community. So, and then I will transition to Councilor Dunn.
Thank you. Something internal, I'd like to run by you guys, and it has something to do with, council meeting scheduling. We have our, first and third Thursday that we know we have to be here. Then I was wondering if you guys be interested in, laying out the meetings we have besides those meetings throughout the year. Talking about URA, maybe every 3 months, so we know when it's happening, so it's not that constant doodle
Yeah.
poll back and
That's
forth.
great.
Also, maybe a council breakfast, put it on the calendar. This is when it is. We can work towards that. And also maybe a retreat or two. A breakfast, a council breakfast,
And what was the last one?
a retreat
A
or two.
retreat.
Just at the beginning of the year, it's only February 1st. We can lay it out. This is what it is.
So
Let's
are
do
you
it.
comfortable asking between a handful of our staff that are here to help propel that in a conversation? We'll get some doodles.
Sure, absolutely. See
great.
if we can move that forward
Thank
and
you
come
so
up with some
much.
dates and also based on staff, obviously.
Mhm.
Staff says we can do it in this month, then let's put it down.
Yep, perfect.
Thank you.
Counselor Weimer.
Got a couple of things. The working session was pretty busy today, so I didn't want to bring this up. Because it's not quite fully within, but we had a transportation update. Good stuff in there. My question was around, because we talked about Ride Glenwood, right? Sort of the expansion of that. My question was around, we've talked about circulator, this tourist circulator for a while, and I kind of wanted to ask you guys or staff or whomever would know what's going on. Are there next steps? Is there something that we can do to like bang on the table and set a date and make something happen that would precipitate us, getting a tourism circulator happening?
Where do we go from here with his request?
So maybe we can get together a work session to see kind of what it would look like. I
Yeah.
think that there are a couple of things that are sort of in the works now
Okay.
that might inform you on how much money we would have available.
Okay.
So maybe we take step one and we just kind of lay out what a couple of options might look like.
Wonderful.
Go from there.
Perfect. Sounds
Thank
good.
you, Steve.
I'll just say there is that grant money.
Yeah,
There is a,
hold on. There we go. Okay.
just remember, there's the 3-year first last mile kind of
Mhm.
grant money from RAFTA.
Yeah.
That can
Shelley.
help fund 50%.
Kelly's always waving that grant money.
I'm waving that out
Yeah.
there, and they would love to give some of that to Glenwood and help us do. I think that should be a really strong partnership with the GDA. So they wouldn't work.
Maybe, yeah, have them at the table as well.
And then
Um,
another thing real quick. I'm interested in council's perspective. If there's any interest in us rethinking how we allow the public to engage with us during these meetings. We have upfront, the items not on the agenda. We get a handful of those. I think those are working well. And then I think in every meeting that I've been in so far, there's been someone who wanted to make a comment.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, it's not a thing, it's not this flavor of thing, and so we're not taking public comments, right? And we're just following the rules as
Yeah.
as we've kind of,
Absolutely.
established them. And we talk a lot about transparency and trust and building, better relationships. I would love to see us rethink how we allow the public to engage with us in these meetings. And if it's every item on the agenda, there's a public element to it. 90% of the time, there's no one here to speak. But for those 10%, I think just that little, that offering of time and of attention and respect, I think could go a long way. Probably doesn't change decisions that we make. Sometimes it might, but I think it's just, I think it's something worth considering. And I guess I'm interested in how you all think about that.
How would you feel about adding that to a council work session
Sure.
agenda item or a council retreat? Something where we can digest it a little bit thoroughly.
Yeah.
And we are, it's not, to your point, we are not picking and choosing when we open public comment and when we don't.
It's very
It's
clear what
very
the rules are.
regimented and we
Absolutely.
are following the rules, and oftentimes we refer to legal counsel on when is it required and when is it not? And sometimes we open it up even when it's not, simply for the sake of transparency.
But there's also some wiggle room in there, and we can create some of our own rules. I
Absolutely.
know
So-
other municipalities do things very differently,
so
and
Is that
so
comfortable with you that we add it to an agenda item for either a council retreat and or
Sooner-
workshop?
sooner
Sooner
versus
rather than
later.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
I think because it's going to take some iteration, some
Mhm.
discussion, and I think we could start on that
Okay.
soon.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Counselor Schechter.
Thank you. I'll start with what Mitchell said. I think that's important in a workshop. That ties into, do we look at town hall again? Do we look at how we as council communicate in opinion pages? All that wraps together in terms of communication transparency. So I think that's very important. Just a follow-up item, maybe at one of our workshops, I'm still not clear how agenda items get on clearly, that we talk about that and clarify that. But I want to segue, I hadn't necessarily planned it, but the mayor opened the door, talking about our commissions and how broad and helpful they are. And at the same time, we had some issues of people that wanted to speak. And we had a resolution I'm not going to judge the intent. We have a resolution in front of us that came from a segment of the public. And what I want to take the liberty is reading something that is in our Bill of Obligations book that struck me very hard given this time. And given the fact that we're often accused of not listening when we don't agree. Okay, there's a big difference. But when I read this, oh my gosh, this sums up so much of what we have to deal with. Not necessarily targeting tonight, but in general as well. The authors of the Federalist Papers similarly worried about how factions could threaten the functioning or even fabric of the country. Their definition of faction, quote, a number of citizens, whether amounting to a majority or minority of the whole, who are united and actuated by some common impulse of passion or of interest adverse to the rights of other citizens or to the permanent and aggregate interests of the community. That struck me as so poignant now as it was in the 1700s, without accusing fingers. That is one of our major jobs of trying to figure that out and balance it from those we hear from and those we don't. So I just wanted to share that because I thought it was so timely. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm just going to showcase, if you'll hold your book up, that is the CMC Common Reader. It's a huge, if you go to CMC, they're showcasing it. They're encouraging us all to read it. There's still copies available at all the CMC branches. It is well worth the read. And I think you could definitely get almost any of your city councilors to sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about it with you. So thank you, Sumner. Counselor Zelinski.
Thank you. Okay, so I reiterate, I like the idea of a council retreat. I think that, we have a lot of ideas and you know, we don't get enough time to like share that work sessions. Everything is very, you know, purposeful and very structured. And I think that we could benefit from that. You know, and I'm with you. So I'm going to bring up the idea of the town halls again. We've talked about that. I think it's a great place for engagement. Ingrid and I are trying to work together with the Post Independent to see if we can get something like that on the books. We have a tentative date in March that we're trying to nail out. You know, it's just really nice to have something where you can have like ask a question and get an immediate answer, and it's not limited to 3 minutes, and it's not in an email that only one person sees, you know? So I like that idea. I think that'll help a lot with the frustration of communication that we get at these meetings, because, you know, we are forced to keep it very concise in the interest of moving things forward. And so it isn't the best place to get a lot of public engagement at city council. So if we can do that outside of city council, I think that would benefit all of us and diminish frustration on both sides. We hate not seeing people, you know, get to speak, and the frustration when they walk out and leave, like that bothers me. By the same token, I also recognize the need for it. So I think that would be less frustrating for all parties if we can kind of come together and figure that out. And then I had 2 things brought to my attention by people in the community, and I don't quite always know. I sent an email about the tagging. There's a lot of graffiti, mainly 27th Street Bridge, underneath there, like under the pedestrian part. And then I noticed there's a spot on 8th Street, like red, right on the corner of Cowden there, and it's been there for a couple weeks. So I don't know how, like, what the process of that is, but I think that it bothers the community members a lot more than it bothers visitors. I don't think that, you know, they see it, but if the people who live here feel, I don't know, kind of offended by people marring their spaces. And so if we could, you know, maybe pay attention to that. I don't know if we can get that cleaned up. I don't know if it's like been cleaned up and it's back again. I'm not sure, but it, you know, that, I guess somebody brought it up, tried to report it in August, and it's still there. So I thought I'd bring that up. And then the second thing is on South Midland, kind of not that far from my backyard, there's a dead tree, and I don't know if it's in the city right away, but I've had 2 people now mention it to me that they're worried that it's going to come down onto Midland there. I don't know if that's like on private property, but if maybe somebody could drive by there and check that out.
Where is it exactly?
So it's a little bit south from like my backyard, and I have noticed it, and I keep kind of thinking it's going to come down. It's dead and it's kind of leaning, and I think it might be on private property. So I don't know if we contact the property owner, but it's come up, and I forgot about it, and then it came up again. So I'm like, ooh, I should probably mention that. All right, cool. That's all I got.
Okay. Counselor Gotis.
Something I'd love for council to, maybe not if we don't want to weigh in tonight, but there is a Senate Bill 100 that has been introduced. It's bipartisan introduction by Senator Perry Will and I think Dylan Roberts as well. And what this bill would be is a I-70 left lane prohibition for commercial vehicles. Semis could only travel in the left-hand lane between basically Glenwood Springs and Evergreen. They can only go in the left-hand lane if they're passing another vehicle that's going below the speed limit. It also has provisions in there how everybody has to carry chains. Commercial vehicles have to carry chains throughout the I-70 corridor, state line to state line, increases the fines significantly. And I think that it has yet to be heard on the Senate Transportation and Energy Committee. The I-70 Coalition is taking this up. I'm sure that they will be very interested in the conversation. They haven't taken an official position yet. But I guess we're a little early in the process, but I'll probably, as things go through, I'll keep folks updated, because I think that is something we would be very interested potentially in supporting. So it's probably just a little too early to ask for that support yet. Let's see what else. Climate crisis that we're in, and what is our role in both leadership and practical ordinances. We have a climate action plan that is getting completed, and I think the following two items kind of hit my inbox this week, and one is banning two-stroke lawn equipment as we go forward. These produce as much as 100 vehicles a day when they're in use per hour. And also the other topic that I think other communities have done is electrification of buildings. Buildings are the number two outside of transportation. It's 1 and 2, like really, really close. Buildings are the number 2 contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. And Crested View, for example, has banned natural gas in all new constructions. No one's going to take away your asthma-producing stove.
No, no. Thank you.
And so that is something that, you know, if we don't do, we're in a climate crisis, and to be indifferent to locking in 100 years or more in these buildings, you know, with 300 units that are going up, and those are going to lock in climate emissions for 100 or 200 years, and to be indifferent about that, I think is a shame. Just as a house cleaning, I was reappointed to the EPA Small Advisory Subcommittee. Last year, for example, we authored the recommendation on electrifying transportation for small communities. So stuff that we are talking about, working on, particularly related to, you know, a conversation about how we electrify our own fleet and our own equipment. So I'll be serving on that for another year.
I think we were all remiss last week or week before last in congratulating Jonathan for being reappointed to CAST. I think he mentioned it, and it was, so that's twice the 2 different boards that said, wow, there's value with Jonathan Godis, and he has been reappointed. Yay. And thank you for all that you bring from those to our community and the passion and enthusiasm you share. And kind of just one more observation before we transition to you guys. Your city council does pride ourselves on being accessible. So for those who, you know, what I hear in this transition on public comment, this council, I think everybody's email is posted online. Almost everyone up here tells me having, you know, they went and had coffee with a constituent who's concerned about something. We are doing coffee with council. You can stop me in the grocery store. In addition, we have a city council email, which I don't think gets published nearly, you know, it's hard to find sometimes. And that is citycouncil@cogs.us. So that's citycouncil@cogs.us. When you use that email, that means one email goes to all 7 of your elected officials here in the city. So I appreciate everyone's willingness when you serve. Not only are you up here and read the board packet, but you're also, I know how much you guys make yourself accessible to the community. So thank you for that. And I look forward to being able to announce some town halls in the future. We will move on now to reports from our city administration. We'll start with Steve Boyd, city manager.
Okay, thank you. We are scheduled to do a live fire demonstration at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I think, on Monday. It's noticed. If you want to ride over with me, you're welcome to be at City Hall. Anytime between 2 and 4, I think works okay. And just plan to hang out for half an hour so you'll watch a couple of evolutions go by. Pretty interesting. And Gary wanted me to remind everybody that we did just get a battalion chief vehicle that is a hybrid.
Good job.
Good for us.
Good job.
The RFP that we put out for a communications firm closes early next week. And then staff is going to, we'll see what we get. We'll probably talk to a couple of those firms and, you know, see how we're feeling about things. The next step would be to start to really define the scope of work. And we're probably going to need your help in doing that to make sure that it looks like it's crisp and everything is in it that you need. So
Thank you.
that's coming. And then the last thing, we did send out a quarterly report. Thank you, Sarah, for doing all the work. If you guys have ideas of things you want to change, let me know. Be careful with the financials. Just know that there's a lot of stuff that is still going to hit the books. So just be careful. Let me know if you have questions.
Okay, perfect. City Attorney Carl Hanlon.
Don't have a lot. I was going to say that just because I gave you a really lengthy year-end summary, I did not include anything in the quarterly report. Normally, I think we're going to try to include, along with the rest of staff, something in the quarterly report. It just felt a little repetitive on that. thank you to Shelley. I got a lot of great comments about you going down to Denver on Monday. And I don't know that anybody mentioned it, but the River District did, I believe, secure the $20 million grant to help in the purchase of the Shoshone water rights. We're going to have a discussion at some point about Glenwood's contribution to that acquisition as well. But that was a huge step, both getting in a contract and doing that. So like I said, since it's something I've been working on since like 2005, I really appreciate Shelley being there.
Like 25 people from the Western Slope, so it was great.
Yeah, it was,
Thank you,
I
Shelley.
saw the list of people who commented, a lot of elected officials. It was fantastic to see, keeping in mind that the CRCA was signed on the West Slope by 28 different entities. So Glenwood was one of the leads all the way through that. So I just wanted to mention that. So thank you.
And anything about the mine? Do you want to?
You know, the mine is presenting some novel issues. You should have gotten an update email from Richard this afternoon. You know, we have had some conversations with our counterparts at the Roger Flynn with the Glenwood Springs Citizen Alliance. We're in some interesting times and trying to kind of, this is something a little bit new, how they approach that decision they got to. And so we're going to have to wait to see how it turns out. From our standpoint, I think it's super positive. I mean, the basic outcome of that, and I think there was some reporting on it, is that really it's a gravel pit. Turns out we all knew that, BLM agrees, and that is really going to change the economics of that significantly. And we're going to have to see how BLM now takes their approach on. There's an ongoing enforcement action. Obviously, there was the big slide. They still have not addressed that. We now have the issue that they're not actually, you know, they're not operating underneath a mineral sales agreement in which they actually have to pay the public for what they're taking out and selling. So we're just going to have to kind of see how that evolves, but super excited about that because there again, it was 2018 when they told us it was going to happen to the community, and we should be, you know, asking whatever, you know, what little thing could we ask them to do for us, because we were going to do this to your community. And so thank you to all of you guys, both past councils, current council, past manager, staff members who have worked on that, you know, we're in a very different place 6 years later, almost exactly 6 years later. And it's because the community came together and pushed really hard for something. So thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, great. Well, then I will, I think Counselor Dem.
Item 18. if I may?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
if I
That's
may,
kind of your new official.
That's kind of my thing. If it's okay with council, I would like to call the social event Casey's Tap Room, since it's only 7:30.
Excellent. Back to council for a motion to adjourn. Counselor Dem.
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Counselor Couch.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all this evening, both council, staff, and our community.